talking about kind of homes, you think about a lot of home sites actually face towards the idea is that you have these strip views, right?
Yep.
The strip is kind of like our ocean.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Strip or mountain views. You're going to have one or the other.
Well, so that's the thing.
I'm hearing more mountain though than I am strip now.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's changing.
From the grit and the grind to successful minds. Live from the entertainment capital of the world. Your hosts, Jillian Batchelor and Daryl Hannah.
Hey, guys. It's Jillian Batchelor and
Daryl Hannah.
Daryl Hannah, the sexiest realtor in the room. Well, I mean, other than me. Yeah, you guys. So today we are on Vegas Real Talk. We are so happy to have you. And we're talking architectural design, cool, sexy, modern things. Like what is happening? And who's our special guest?
Jared Lebo.
Jared Lebo is
the
yes. I mean, literally in architectural design, he is like the guy.
Yeah.
He is doing so many cool projects. Jared, tell us who you are. Tell us about LeboDesign. Tell us how it got started. I want to know all the things. What makes you the most interesting man in the room?
Oh, God. I mean, I get to be a rock star every day.
That's good. That's a good answer.
Yeah. To me, there's literally nothing better in the world than designing buildings, right?
Absolutely.
Creating space, basically trying to add to how people use, their spaces and really what influences their life. To me, that's literally the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
So I kind of go to work every day and I'm pretty excited.
That's awesome. So you don't feel like you work any day. I mean, just you have fun with it.
Yeah, correct.
And is it all commercial stuff that you're designing? Are you doing any residential, any mid-family, anything else?
Yeah, so our firm does all commercial. We basically have three main studios. So we do our commercial studio, which really entails a lot of office, some retail. We have a hospitality studio, which does a lot of kind of experiential spaces, places you go to have fun, basically.
Okay.
Right.
I like this.
It's the best part of our studio, I think. And then we have multifamily is our other studio.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
That's becoming like popping up.
That is becoming So, Jared, tell us, how did you get into architectural design? Is that something like you were in high school and you knew you wanted to be an architect, or like what happened? Like, how did you fall into this? Were you just like looking at a building one day, you were like, that's ugly. Yeah. Tell us.
I mean, yeah, you're actually not far off. That's effectively the story. I was probably like, I don't know, maybe I was 12 years old, and I would just draw all the time. And so I would just draw, different things, spaces, three-dimensional stuff. And my dad one day was kind of like looking at my notebook, and he's like, Bubs, what are you working on? And I was just showing him some of the things. He's like, you might want to like consider being an architect. And I was like, oh, I hadn't really thought about that. And so I started looking more into it, started getting into classes when I was really young. And the high school I went to out here actually was really fortunate. They actually had a program for that, which was cool.
Wow.
And yeah, just kind of never really got turned off, I guess.
Wow.
Just kept getting more turned on the more I learned about it. And
so that almost never happens. I mean, you never hear people that are like that young of an age, like 10, 12 years old, and they're like, that's what I want to do. And then they actually do it, right? A lot of us go to college because we're like, this is really cool. And then we're like, get a degree, and we do not work in that field,
well, especially like, I don't know.
That's the common tale.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know how it was because I graduated in 90. You guys are what?
You're so old.
I know.
2000.
I'm a little bit older.
Class,
did they have
the
a lot of
millennial
those?
class.
Did they have a lot of classes for architecture in high school?
I think they, like you said, you got lucky in the school you went to. What high school did you go to here in Vegas?
Green Valley.
What?
Oh, yeah.
You were
And did they have
far from here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Did they have classes in high school about?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
They had what did they call it? I think they called it the Industrial Arts Program.
Okay.
Is what it was known as.
See, so Vegas schools are not that bad, you guys. We birthed a Jared Lebo, you guys.
Well, nice.
Clark,
in my class, I
Clark
didn't
School
have
District.
any drawing classes or anything, so you had to kind of do it on your own.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was really common at the time. It was probably one of the few schools that had a program. And it's, I don't know, it's just one of those things you just get lucky. You find something you like, and you find programs and people that kind of foster those interests. And then they just kind of carry you away.
Like anything else, good mentors is, I say it's the most important thing in the world.
In life, right?
Yeah.
It's literally, so have you ever had a project, a client come to you, hey, you're going to get paid to do this project. And you were like, this is terrible. I don't want to do this. I don't like this design. Or they had a concept in mind and you had to like maybe steer them in a different direction. Or they came up with a crazy concept and you were like, that's never going to work. Like, tell us about that.
Yeah. That happens fairly often.
Okay.
Actually, there's a lot of people that they have these ideas and they're not entirely sure really how to get them executed, which makes sense.
Yeah.
It's really why you engage an architect, right?
Yeah, because I'm not an architect. I'm like, that looks cool. Do that for me, Jared.
Right.
Done.
And that's what most people do. But there's a lot that goes into it. So I always tell people, I go, well, I'm like, we can effectively accomplish anything you can probably imagine, right? I mean, there's very few things at this point that you can't really do. It just depends how
big
much
your budget is.
Yeah.
Pocketbook.
I always tell people, like, it's amazing what you can accomplish with money and dreams.
Yeah.
Right. And it sounds, it sounds trite, but there's truth to it. If you really want to see something through, like, you can build. You can build pretty much anything. It's just how much you really want to see a project through to the end. And some of them that really get there are long processes, but they're so rewarding.
So I wanted to be an architect, but I went the building route. I was a contractor.
Yeah.
And it was always this big thing, contractors versus architects. Like, okay, you draw it, but like,
how do you want me to build
we
that?
need to build it. Like, come on, explain this a little better.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that? I mean, you come across those problems a lot?
I think you just work with GCs that, are really reputable and are quality builders. And I think if you have a GC that is more or less a partner, and you're really looking after each other, like, how can we realize the end goal, which is designing this amazing space?
So it's a process too, right?
You get there. Yeah.
Because
it's back and forth.
Because do you see things sometimes where you're like, dude, I got to talk to the GC before I even design this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, how am I even going to accomplish that?
He's got to tell me how to build it before I can
wall's never going to stand up.
I can draw it, but
yeah, there's definitely, there's a lot of, we call that pre-con, right? Pre-construction. And there's a lot of that where you try to figure out, what is the cost of this project, reasonably going to be. And you try to get an understanding of the scope of work.
Yeah.
Kind of what we call a rough order of magnitude, right? That's the technical term. What does this project really entail? Can we deliver it the way that it's expected to be delivered? What's the timeline? What are the jurisdictional, considerations that we're going to have? All those fun things, all the technical stuff that doesn't get packed into an HGTV show.
Well, because a lot of times they want to have a drawing, and then they want to get a price on that drawing.
Yep.
But you can't give a price just on the drawing. Like, you've got to know how it's built, because that determines the price. So
there's a lot that goes into it. But what you're referring to, it's the means and methods of how things come together. And yeah, I mean, you can create something on paper, and hopefully, I always say, if the architect doesn't have a pretty good idea of how it's going to come together, the project hasn't been figured out. But even with that, there's times where you just get into the field and you go, we have to excavate this, this huge basement level for parking, or whatever might be, some complex thing that is really difficult on the site and it has a lot of cost implication. And there's just a lot of back and forth where you have to talk to the person who's building and think, how do we really want to accomplish this? What's the better way to do it?
Is there a better way to maybe change it and do something different? Correct. Or maybe you build it above ground instead of the basement or whatever.
Yeah, those are all considerations. And like, those are the things that make projects kind of unique in how you solve your problems. They make them pencil, which our developers are big fans of that word. Right?
Make it pencil out.
Yeah, does it pencil? Those are huge things. And, they're all considerations, trade-offs.
Well, especially here in Vegas, you got different types of earth and different hard ground and caliche and composites and different stuff that costs a lot.
Okay, so we see MSG, which is about to be up, right? The Madison Square Gardens that they're building here for the Sphere, people are calling it, right? It's insane. They're already testing their LED screens, and they're saying that like by fall we'll have the first events, right? What is your thoughts on that design? Like, that's cool. It's like,
did you have anything to do with that at all, or
or do you know anybody, or like what are your thoughts on it? I mean, it's cool, different design.
Involved in that.
Yeah,
that's just hyper cool. Come on, how exciting is that? It's
so exciting.
So great. We're the entertainment capital, right? Obviously, everyone knows that. But when you start bringing these venues to the city that kind of reinforce that concept. And it's just,
that thing is just nuts. Watching that thing get built was just like.
And what I loved is, like, during COVID and during everything, they never stopped.
They just kept going.
They were like, nope, we're building this. We're going to have the coolest architecture out there. We're going to have the coolest concerts and events and venues. And like, Vegas is back, baby. We're never going to stop. You can't.
Wasn't that funny how that was almost like a trophy for Las Vegas?
Yeah.
Like, when everybody thought the world was ending, it was like, but the
like,
Sphere's still building.
So, what I thought was so interesting about that time, I remember that really distinctly, that, the world was kind of shutting down, right? For lack of better words.
Oh yeah,
that's how it felt. Right?
I thought the world was going to shut. I mean,
everyone did. We had no idea. None of us were alive in 1919.
Yeah, to see what happened.
Most of us, and It's just interesting because we got calls from most of our clients, and we thought for sure, oh man, so many projects are going to be put on
They're going to be
hold.
canceled.
We're going to be out of business for 2 years,
Right.
Yeah, or maybe 5 years. Who knows?
No idea
Yeah.
what's going on, right? And I remember, the recession of, 08 to 12, right? That was fun for architects. So, we had no idea what's going. And the weirdest thing happened. Every single client that we have basically doubled down.
And you got busy.
Yeah.
Instead of going out.
We got insanely busy.
Us too. Yeah.
And it
In
was
real
the
estate, it was
weirdest
crazy.
thing,
Yeah.
because I would have never predicted that in a million years. And so I feel like our clients kind of looked at that and said, oh, here's our chance to basically get ahead of all of our development goals.
Let's get ahead of and they were delayed on a lot of things before that.
They were. And
So they were like,
just
yep.
pushed and pushed and pushed. And so construction never stopped.
Which is so different from, like you said, 08 to 2012.
Yeah.
My sister's father-in-law is an architect, and he was losing his job, couldn't get a job anywhere, and he was in high demand previous to that crash. And he actually left the country for a few years to go work out of country, to go do some projects, and then eventually came back. And a lot of architects, because they were kind of like, oh, that's not needed right now. I mean, during the great crash, people were just trying to survive. So it's totally crazy how this let's call this reset, I don't even want to call it a recession, had a completely different effect on what it did in 2008 to 2012. The world didn't shut down, at least with construction. The world kept going, kept pressing forward, and we've seen a lot of projects come forward, and Vegas is just booming from that. Now, tell us, Jared, what do you think is the coolest project you've ever worked on or you will be working on?
I'm not sure I can say the ones that we will be working on.
Okay.
We don't
want to get you in trouble.
Yeah, there's NDAs on a lot of those.
No lawsuits, you guys.
But
Just whisper in
there are some cool stuff coming to Las Vegas.
There's always cool stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Or like knock your socks
keep us
off. Like, we want to
excited.
know, like, are you excited?
Yeah, I'm excited.
You excited about stuff
I
coming?
get really excited. Like, I wish I didn't have to sleep.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love
that's
this.
a good
Okay.
answer.
I would just work all the time.
Yeah.
Like, there's
Me
just
too, I
there's
think.
so much to keep people excited in what we're doing. I mean, admittedly, I'm a huge nerd for this stuff. I never get tired of it. And I realize that can be exhausting for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much going on out there. There's so many people that have these ideas that are really, really groundbreaking ideas, and they want to bring them to the city. And these things can be far out. Sometimes they could be a year, 2 years, 5 years, 7 years out.
Wow.
But they're really interesting. And when you have the entrepreneurs that are coming to our city now that are willing to put the investment into something that they won't see for 5 years.
Yeah.
Which is not a lot of people.
Yep.
It's a really cool thing. And so we're starting to get that caliber of developer.
So what do you think about what Universal is going to do? Like, they're going to do in the south end of the Strip, that big, like, Universal, not studios. They're not calling it Universal Studios, but they bought that $100 million land at the south of the Strip, and they're going to do like a Universal, like, I don't want to say park because people think theme park, but it's more about like a movie experience. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it just kind of makes our cachet that much better.
Yeah.
Right? I don't see any downside to these new venues coming onto the Strip.
Because they're building a lot of the stadiums down on the South Strip. I mean, the South Strip's is going to boom over the next 10 years.
Yeah, it's huge. Traffic's a whole nother conversation, right? As anyone knows, that's
You better build the high-speed train.
Yeah.
I think once we get a high-speed train, I mean, the train will
It'll really take off.
and it'll change the demographics here.
Because people can live in LA, they can come to Vegas, they can.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can actually, we really can basically be a suburb of LA or vice versa.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting that that can happen. I mean, we have a ton of friends that live in LA and they come here, pretty often.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
2-3 times a month.
And flying just sucks.
Yeah.
Because, we know why it sucks.
Yeah.
And driving is 3.5, 4 hours. But God, if you could get here in 60
Now that
minutes,
train,
90
we're,
minutes.
We're
in a
still
train.
what? 2 years out? What do you guys think?
Yeah, at least I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Supposed to be here
But you know how
5
quick.
years ago.
But you know how quick
exactly.
2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
But 2 years go so quick, and in Vegas and what we're building and expanding and doing, and I mean, MGM has more projects coming up, and I mean, Caesars has more projects coming up. I mean, it's crazy.
It is.
Yeah.
So tell us, can you talk to us a little bit about what's happening over at Bally's? Are you able to talk about that?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. We're doing a bar there. It's called Bourbon Street Parade.
Did you say at Bally's?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's out on the boulevard. You know where the Grand Bazaar shops are?
Yep.
Yep.
Right, that are right there on the corner.
Yep.
Yep.
Which is kind of an interesting space, really. And so we have a client actually that's client that is opening their first experiential space here. We don't really think of them as just bars, right?
Yeah.
Bars, the kind of the occupant of the.
When you think of like
space.
PTs or something, when you think of bar,
that's a bar, and there's like the technical terms of tavern, bar, what have you, but we think of them really as experiential spaces.
Okay.
Right, because that's what they are, right, and that's what these operators really build them as, because they know that that's what they're creating. They're creating something for people to remember when they come to the city.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty cool spot. That's going to be, it's just about 4,000 square foot parade. That's it has kind of
a Bourbon Street feel?
It has
like
a
I'm
Bourbon
making
Street
it feel like I'm in New Orleans?
There's like a New Orleans vibe to it, but it's going to be really more of a music spot. So it's like I think like very like brassy, very loud. Like this is going to be
okay.
I like the term lounge, right? Like
it's a lounge, but it's going to be a little bit different. This is going to be a place that I think you'll see people that are stopping there that maybe they might come into town and they're having a big wedding and they're like, oh, we have to go to Bourbon Street.
It's like a destination. You've got to go there.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so like it's one of those cool spots.
Like it's going to make waves.
Cool.
It's going to be
Sounds
loud.
Sounds fun.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. So, and interestingly enough, it's getting built and it's located really close to where the original Bourbon Street Hotel.
Right across the
one
street.
street over.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just down the way. So if you actually look at these two pieces of land right next to each other and you go, wow, it's kind of like the reincarnation of this concept, but it's the next iteration, right? It's the new chapter for that. And so the parade portion, I can't talk too much about yet, but there's a spin on it.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember right across the street, Barbary Coast.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right there.
It was right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's so funny, like any of us that have been in Vegas for a long time, to see how things get birthed and then knocked down and then rebirthed and then reconceptualized and very cool stuff.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the most exciting trend, design trend, and I know we're talking commercial space here, but that you're seeing in buildings? So that for a long time it was like tilt-up construction we were doing, but that's not really a design trend, but I'm saying that was what we were used to. Yeah. What is a design trend that you think is just like going to be hot and going to hit?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's, I think the cat's out of the bag, but spaces that offer like inclusive experiences for all parts of your life. Like Uncommons is a great example.
Yeah, I love Uncommons.
Uncommons did like a really, really cool thing. They have a ton of office there, a lot of work. They have experiential spaces, right, which we think of as like play.
Yeah.
And then they have a living component as well. So it's not
like
restaurants,
work, play,
absolutely.
eat.
Work, play, eat.
Go to little events, little venues.
And you're starting to see those kind of pop up all over kind of Vegas a little bit, like little 4 or 5 story mid-rises.
Because the district started that a long time ago.
That's right, yeah.
And then we tried a little bit of that in the Northwest. We tried that in Norman Rockwell area over there.
I think you're going to see downtown Summerlin area build up.
Oh, downtown Summerlin for sure. Yeah. That right by the Aviators Stadium right there, they have some land that's designed that's work, play, that they want to be able to encompass it where you would never have to leave like a 2-mile radius of downtown Summerlin where everything is happening there.
That's a huge, if we can call it a trend, it's a trend that's been building for some time.
Yep.
And it's very successful in most metropolitan cities, right? Because they've been built that way from the first day, right? You had retail on the ground floor, you had living or an office component.
Mixed use.
Yeah, mixed use is nothing new, but it's new more or less to a city that was designed kind of around a suburban model to some extent.
We absolutely were. People don't realize that, but we are. If you're not used to Las Vegas, or if you're coming to Las Vegas, the Strip, the casinos, the venues, the entertainment capital part of the world. What you don't realize is how suburbia we are outside of that. Oh, yeah. We are definitely.
I remember growing up, everyone thought I lived on the Strip.
Yeah.
And I used to visit, like, oh, where do you live? What hotel do you live in? I'm like,
because that's what they think. And even my kids, it's so funny. Like they're used to Summerlin, they're used to the Northwest. So whenever we would drive to the Strip, which isn't often, but we would take them places, they'd be like, oh, are we going into the city?
Yeah.
Like, well, we live in the city, but we live in the same Las Vegas. But they're like, oh, we're going into the city. We're going to go see the city now. And it's like, how funny when you know no different. So I think, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. We're very much designed as a suburban, typical area.
Well, there's all these, like, there's always been like a call for people like us who, I live in Summerlin. I don't ever go to the Strip. Yep. I don't want to have to go to the Strip to go to a nice restaurant or to go to the movie, but now we don't have to because you have these things like downtown Summerlin, the district, these things popping up. It's amazing.
It's huge. And I think even beyond that too, I think a lot of these spaces are going to become more nature focused.
Yeah.
I think that's what's really important.
So tell us a little bit more about that. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, nature focused. Ooh, I haven't heard that before.
People really, we've seen when you so this started something we can all relate to. When you look at most homes today that are being developed, right, whether they're custom homes or whether they're from a builder, they all have this focus on, building courtyards, leisure spaces, homes that are kind of indoor outdoor experience, right?
Yeah.
This is kind of been
Big
going
rolling
on.
away doors where you can walk
Exactly,
right onto the back, and it's like,
right?
yeah.
'Cause we have the right
okay.
climate for that type of an experience.
Yeah.
And it just kind of makes sense. I mean, people love that. I think what people are starting to discover is that they really like being connected to nature.
Yeah.
Right? So like you, I live, in the west part of town. I live in Summerlin as well. And, the main reason I live there is because I go to Red Rock.
Walking trails, biking trails, hiking.
Well, I just love driving home and looking at the mountains,
looking at
and
the
it's just
mountains,
amazing driving home.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting.
Beautiful.
And I think you're going to start to see that shift where you look at a lot of, again, if we're talking about kind of homes, you think about a lot of home sites actually face towards, the idea is that you have these strip views, right?
Yeah.
The strip is kind of like our ocean.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Strip or mountain views. You're going to have one or the other.
Well, so that's the thing.
I'm
is
hearing more mountain
you're
though than I
gonna
am
hear more
strip
mountain.
now. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
exactly
That's
right.
changing.
You're starting to see the shift to where people, they recognize the value in nature
Yeah.
is just as valuable, and to many people it's really more valuable.
Oh yeah, no, we have a client right now that we're working with that has budgets right under $2 million, and they said we want a house that backs up to the mountains. Like we want to be able to like leave our yard and like go hiking, even if it's like a natural path. Like, or we want to go biking, like right up to the mountains. And like where I live in the northwest part of the valley, which is there's a lot of agricultural feel up there in that area, and the architect
Horses and stuff.
Yep, and the architecture on there is a lot of cookie cutter builder homes, but then there's some custom homes. But you have a lot of people who want to be near the horses or want to be near, they want to have chickens or they want to, but also have
you
that
can't
Vegas
do in
feel.
Summerlin.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And then we see, but with that, I mean, if you're getting right up into the mountains, I mean, be aware, we do have coyotes.
Yep.
We do have the random mountain lion that comes down to
Lions,
Summerlin.
coyotes, hawks.
Yeah, we do have hawks. So
snakes.
we have a little bit of our nature in Vegas too, but without any natural kind of catastrophes.
Well, the cool thing about Summerlin too is it's always like ranked. Most of the time, it wins for like walking paths and stuff.
Yeah.
They always win those awards.
Desirability.
Yeah.
There's a huge percentage of people that actually, like the denizens, if you will, of Summerlin proper, use those walking paths only, like 4 to 5 times a week.
Yeah.
I use them
Oh,
every
yeah.
night. If you have dogs, you use them pretty much every
Oh
night.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, that's a
They're
huge thing.
paseo behind my house, and I love it just because there's not a house behind me,
Right.
but also just seeing the dogs and people walking, say hey neighbor, and it's awesome.
So I think what that really tells us is when you look at how people want to live just naturally in their home environments, right? Take that and you can understand why that is going into more of the commercial realm. When you're seeing offices that want to have, spaces that open up, you want to be connected more with nature. You want to have these areas that have experiential spaces that are inside and outside.
Yeah.
Uncommons obviously does that pretty
Yep.
well. Downtown Summerlin does that well.
Yep.
That's really, I hate to say it's a trend because it's been building for years, but I think we're finally maybe coming into our own.
Yeah, maybe we're accepting it. We're
Yeah.
living in it. We're accepting it. We're
Yeah.
like, okay, let's do this.
There's a building right across the street from Lexus on Sahara that has, you would never know it. It just looks like a big box building. But in the middle is a big courtyard. With
Yeah.
fountains and waterfalls and trees. And I mean, it's the craziest thing. I never knew it was there. It's been there for a long time.
Yep.
But I leased a space for one of my clients and I got to see it. And it was just,
You're like, oh,
it was
okay.
amazing. Everyone sits out there and has lunch.
I like
And
it.
it's amazing. Yeah.
Design, it's funny, design as a concept, if you just kind of sit down and just watch what makes people happy, it's pretty straightforward.
Being able to look out and look at trees
it's
and stuff.
pretty
Yeah.
straightforward. It's amazing, but we've spent, years, decades kind of getting away. We had this really huge design boom, we'll say in the 60s, right? That's, when mid-century, so
Yep.
everyone knows the
Yeah.
term.
I'm saying
became-
mid-century modern.
really came into its own, right? And they had stumbled onto these ideas that
Yeah,
made
that was a lot of
sense.
outdoor
Absolutely,
spaces.
right? And then we somehow kind of started to get away from that towards the 80s, and
Yeah.
spaces became just really kind of like these hard concrete jungles.
Yeah, like linear modern.
Boxy.
and just kind of maximizing return, but missing kind of the goal,
Yeah.
right?
And like the house we
And that's
grew
why
up in,
everyone
like on
loves
Jones
so-
and Washington, was just boxy, no courtyard, just a
And they
house,
love
a
so,
door.
like, when we go to like Paradise Palms and like all the mid-century modern ones, like with the courtyards or the little, like, yeah, it's really cool concept.
I love it.
What's that like? Those old neighborhoods downtown are coming back.
Yeah.
They're already like modern.
There's like never been a better time to be in Las Vegas in our mind. I mean,
Wait, say that again for the people in the back. There's
Yeah.
never
Say
been a
that
better
again.
time
Everyone
to be
listen.
in Las Vegas.
it's true. I mean, it's really true. It's an exciting time to be here. It's an exciting time to be an architect based in the city. We do work here. We do work in the desert Southwest region.
So you do work outside of Las Vegas.
We do, yeah.
What other areas?
So we do work in Utah a lot.
Okay.
We've done some
Salt Lake is booming.
Salt Lake is where we have a lot of work. And you're 100% right.
God, there's so many cranes in the air there.
Yeah.
It's like, it looks like the old Las Vegas, really.
You're
so
spot on.
what I want to know, Jared, too, is like, so you're my age. We have the same birthday. We're birthday twins, which we're going to get to in a minute, guys. But how did you decide you were going to start your own firm? I mean, for being a young guy, you're very successful.
Did you work somewhere first, or what happened?
Yeah, you're very successful.
I was just really, really fortunate. I worked with a lot of people that are crazy intelligent. And I just basically worked as hard as I could and tried to be.
Who'd you work for?
as observant
First
as I could
person.
be.
First person you worked for.
Advance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, who sells a firm here, does fantastic work. You know,
Still to this day.
Yeah.
He's still open.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
So that was your first like internship.
Yeah.
That's where you worked.
Yeah.
Okay.
He hired me right out of college, actually, out of undergraduate school. I
Wow.
hadn't been to master's yet, and
Wow.
he hired me.
Do you remember GC Wallace?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a job. I was going to intern
in Central
there.
Point.
Yeah, when I first, and then I started. That never happened. But
Yeah.
GC Wallace, they were awesome.
They do a ton of civil.
Yeah.
We work with
Yeah.
them. They're great. You know, so it was just a matter of working with really, really smart people. And when you work with really great people, you tend to be inspired, right?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
New
Yeah.
things, ideas just kind of like bloom. And eventually, you know, when you have good mentors, their goal is really to make sure that you basically become the next generation. Like,
Yeah.
That's what a good
That's what a
mentor
good
That's a
mentor
good
does.
mentor.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people, a lot of mentors out there, or supposed mentors that really just try to keep you just working for them.
Yep.
Because that's selfish, right?
So let's repeat that one more time because that was a really, really great quote. You said a good mentor, their job is to teach you and train you so you can become the newest and the best version of them. And you do it in your own right. So I love that.
and if you ever feel like you have a mentor that is keeping you down or not showing you everything,
yeah.
trust your intuition and freaking bounce.
I think we've all had that. I think we've all had mentors that, or somebody in our life that maybe was afraid that we would surpass them or was afraid to not give us that extra leg
That they
up.
would leave.
And it's important for us to recognize that, like you said, it's important for us to say and find, as Jared said, to find those that are really good mentors that say, I want you to grow. I want you to blossom. I want you to be the newest, best version of me. Surpass me.
Absolutely.
Take what the knowledge that I'm giving you and become better. And so that's really great that you said that a lot of it had to do with the people you worked with.
I mean, that's a healthy person, right? That's a healthy person that wants
Not
you-
insecure.
they want you to succeed.
Yep.
You know, they love what they do.
But I think it makes
They're
you
happy to
better.
share it with you.
I think it makes you better.
100%.
Because so many are afraid that you're going to teach this person everything you know or even better, then they're going to leave. Then you're not going to get the benefit of making money off of them is really what it comes down to.
Right.
But at the end of the day, what I've learned is if you do give it all away and you do become that good mentor, that you also get better.
You do, because you
You
learn.
really do.
They're definitely out there. I mean, just yesterday, we actually got a referral from a project from a previous mentor's office.
Oh, that's great.
And it was great.
That's awesome.
There's another guy that I worked for years. His name is Tom Schumann. He and Ed were actually partners, and they started they're kind of their own separate firms at one point. And now he's a developer in downtown Las Vegas. But these guys were instrumental in really me getting to the point where I decided, I'm going to jump off and kind of put my shingle out there and
Good for
see
you.
what comes of it.
Yeah.
And it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, to be a business owner. So let's go into that for a second. To be a business owner, entrepreneur, want to work for yourself. Because I just made a post about this the other day. It is nerve-wracking. You just said it. It's nerve-wracking. You're going to start your own company. Now you have employees. You have people that work for you. You have people that rely on you to make salaries. We've been there, done
Payroll's
that.
fun.
We're still there.
Payroll's
yeah.
real fun.
Payroll,
yeah. Because it's coming, man.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Payroll does not stop.
But
Yeah.
it's
Death
something
and
you said
taxes.
is interesting too, because going back to the whole mentor thing, you never know who in the future you're going to be working for.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Or
that
who's gonna be
person
working
that
for
you
you.
trained and that went out there on their own could becoming one of your big sources of income. That's happened to us a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of truth to that. And I think in general, you're really pressed as a professional with this goal to there's a level of professional development that you should be putting forward, right? At all times. I mean, I think this is just crucial, really, really crucial to having a high-class professional
especially
network
to
in our
people that
city.
you employ.
100%.
Yeah.
And the reason is because eventually, they will fly and kind of find their own rhythm in life and do things that are really special and amazing in their own right. And then oftentimes what ends up happening is there's professional courtesy. You end up working on projects together. In the future.
Sometimes they come back and work for you again. Sometimes you go work for them. I mean, you never know where it's going to go.
Yeah, and the referrals, like you said, that's so great. And okay, so I had mentioned before, so Jared, so you and I are birthday twins. Both of our birthdays are June 20th. We were born the same year. So basically our moms were in labor the same day. He's from the West Coast. I'm kind of from Midwest Chicago in here. And so are you a true Gemini or are you more of a Gemini Cancer? Because we're on the cusp of Gemini and Cancer. What are you? Tell me your personality.
But your birthday is what, Gemini?
Yeah, well, I'm a true Gemini. So we're on the cusp. We're on the cusp of Gemini Cancer.
Like that day it changes or something?
Yeah, the next day.
Oh,
so
wow.
the cusp is always like a couple of days here and there. And I am a true Gemini, the side of the twins, the yin and the yang, all of that.
What makes you a true Gemini?
Oh, so I'm the crazy and the calm.
Yeah.
So there's like the part of me. Yes, there's a calm side of me.
It's crazy side.
I'm the crazy and the calm. So there's a part of me that like could not read a contract in a business and just go ahead and sign it for myself, not for my clients, you guys, but sign it because I trust people because I go by my feelings. And then there's the other part of me that's like, no, I have to think about this and overthink it and overthink it. Let me let my attorney review it, then a second attorney review it, then let me let my accountant review it, then it comes back to me that I'm going to redline it, then I'm going to send it back to you. So it just depends on the way that I swing, right?
Yeah.
And then the spontaneity, that's what comes in with the Gemini. I'm a true spontaneous person.
Yeah.
Like if you tell me let's leave town today, don't even pack a bag, let's
agree
go. And then the other things, there's big decisions in life where I'm like, I got to overthink them. So I'm very, the yin and the yang, I think for sure.
It's
What
funny
about
because
you?
she'll come in my office and she'll start rattling off. But just hold on, relax, calm down for a minute.
No, there's no
overthinking it.
relaxing.
Like,
No.
yeah.
And he's like, we already talked about this. I'm like, but I need to talk about it again. I do this with my boyfriend all the time too. And he's like, we already discussed this,
We
babe. I'm
just
like,
went through this
not
whole thing
enough.
last
I need
night.
to
Like, nope, I
discuss
need to
this
talk it again.
again to make sure I feel comfortable with it. I want to discuss it one more time. And he's like, we just discussed this. Okay.
That's funny. I think, probably a true Gemini, I guess, in that sense. With it, I think there's kind of this like mercurial undertone, right, of that sign for better or worse, if you will. And it's interesting. I think the person that would probably attest to this more than anyone is just my wife.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. She would.
What sign's your wife?
She's a Virgo.
Oh,
Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God. Yeah. She's my calm center.
what's her birthday?
She's the 6th of September.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Put me on the spot.
Mine's
there.
September
Okay.
20th.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Virgos, they're really, they're like my favorite people. They're super calm, super chill, shockingly detail oriented.
So are you
smart.
calm and chill? Because most Geminis are not.
So it depends what we're talking about, right? I'm calm about some things. I'm really, really passionate and animist. Passionate is a nice way of saying
Yeah.
calm, right?
Yeah.
Very passionate about things that are really, really important to me.
Yeah.
So architecture.
Yeah, obviously. So when it comes
Get
to
it done.
design,
Get it done now.
Yeah, I mean, so the funny thing is, I'm not that way about the design. That's the
Okay.
funny part is I'm really hard charging, but if we design something, we might design it 7 or 8 times. And then if I just don't feel right about it.
So that's your yin and your yang.
You're almost like a music artist that doesn't want to let the song out
Until
because
it's
it's
perfect.
like,
Yeah.
Until
revision.
it's
revision.
perfect.
I think it drives, so my wife is my business partner. I think it drives her a little crazy sometimes.
Okay.
Because there's definitely that part of it. And so I don't really know any different, right?
Yeah.
We are
So she's
who
your
we
business
are.
partner. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't recommend that for most people.
Yeah.
Yeah, how long have
Like,
you
most
guys-
of the time that doesn't work
How long
out.
have you guys worked together for?
We've worked together for 7 years.
And what is her design or what does she do?
Yeah, so she's actually registered with the state for interior design.
Okay.
Okay.
Her background is architecture. She has a master's degree in architecture.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that how you guys met?
We went to grad school together.
That's
Okay,
great.
all right.
Okay, so she's smart too. I love it.
That's awesome.
She's a genius. And
And is she as driven as you?
yeah, absolutely.
So
Oh,
did
I
you
love that.
when you guys met, started dating, did you know you guys were going to work together or did that happen later or like really quick or
So I'll tell you the brief story.
Yeah,
I don't want to go
please.
too long on that, but it's kind of funny. So I met her. We'd actually bought homes in the same community 17 years ago now, 18 years ago.
Okay.
Oh, you were neighbors.
Yeah, right? Long time ago.
Your neighbors and also went to school together.
And did
Okay.
you know each other when you lived in the same neighborhood?
We knew like of each other, but not really. I
like-
knew who she was. I don't think she remembered.
Okay. You're like, I know who this
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
lady is.
exactly.
You had your eye on her.
She was
Okay.
on the HOA.
Okay.
And
Oh, geez.
true
Dun,
story.
dun, dun.
I was single, And I used to throw a lot of parties that would probably get out of hand, right?
Oh yeah, no, not you.
No,
this is the Gemini side, you guys. This is the Gemini side.
And then we had a lot of fun, right?
So
and
she's on the HOA like this mother.
Yes.
Okay.
So I would get, called in front of the board and be like, hey, what's going on? We're getting a lot of complaints. And those are just the neighbors that weren't invited. Right?
Yeah.
And is she as young as you?
She's 9 months older.
Okay, got it. I
So
love
we're the
it.
same age,
So she was
basically.
driven just like you. I love it. Okay.
Who's on the HOA at 22?
I know.
Right, or 23. And so I remember.
And owns her own house and is going to architect school,
yeah.
getting her
Says a lot about
master's
her.
degree.
It's crazy. Well, and she was actually in commercial real estate at that point
Wow.
before she went into architecture.
Okay.
She's such a brilliant designer. I mean, there's nothing else she should be doing. She's great at it. And so it's funny. So I remember I'd go to these meetings and I saw her up there kind of, conducting the meeting. And I remember thinking for sure in my mind, and it's a true story. It's so bizarre. I looked at her, I'm like, man, she was just such a boss, right?
Yeah,
And she was just
loved
so passionate and so strong in how
Together.
she conducted herself. And I remember thinking, I'm like, wow, I really need to marry a woman like that. I'm like, but not right now.
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that.
Yeah.
I'm
Still
22.
partying
I'm
and-
like,
Yeah.
But at some point, I'm like, I really need to find a woman just like that. And that was actually
So
the one.
she was
so
the
funny.
model
Yeah.
She
of
was
what
the
you
one.
want.
And she
And
ended
how
up
long
becoming the
after
woman.
that did you guys marry? How long?
Oh God, a long time. Well, she was married at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, so she was married at the time. For everyone hearing that story, they're like, "Oh," I'm like, it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
We
Were you married
genuine
before?
Just friends. I wasn't married.
So
but
this
I
is your
was-
first marriage.
I was in a long relationship prior.
Okay.
My first and my last.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
so she was married at the time. She ended up getting divorced. We were just finishing graduate school, so it was 2012 at this point. We ended up dating. We were really just spending time together designing. That's
Yeah.
really what we were
That's
doing.
kind of surreal.
Yeah.
So I
Like
love
I'm
that
dating this
because-
girl now that I thought was
I
the
thought-
perfect model
I
to
know.
be my wife.
Uh-huh.
So
Wow.
This-
That's visualization.
so it's funny. That's exactly where I was going to go with that. So I'm really big on this, and then again, I realize this sounds so trite, but like talk about the power of manifestation.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
just put out in the world what you really want, and it will find you. you
So
have to
this
be really
this is a
careful
little
about
this
what
might be
you
a little
ask
stalkerish because she was married, she was the model. You
it
must have been
wasn't.
thinking about her
But it wasn't.
lots.
for. You know what?
That's great. I mean, you made
Maybe
it
you're
happen.
subconscious or something.
I wasn't consciously doing it, right?
Yeah.
I just thought she was just this amazing human being.
But when
Yeah.
you were in school together, she wasn't married, right?
was.
Later?
No, she was. She was married when we were in school together, and then she had just gotten divorced
So
when we finished school.
How did you hear that she got divorced? How'd that happen?
I mean, she told me.
She told you.
Okay.
Okay.
Again-
Okay. She was looking at you too.
She was
Okay.
just like,
If
She doesn't
tells
just
you
tell
the story,
anybody that information.
She'll tell you the story, and I really believe it's true. She's like, I was not on her radar.
wow.
I don't think so at all.
And now you're the one.
And now I'm the one. Yeah.
I
Well, so
love
I,
it.
I do
I want
love
her
this
over.
story because so my boyfriend now, we were friends for very many years, well over a decade, and he was a single and always dating different women. He used to always tell me, "I'm just trying to find a woman like you," but there was never was he interested? Was he actually interested in me? And he used to always be like,
Well,
with
you were
his
married too.
Yep, but he was never interested in me. We were just friends. And with his last girlfriend, I remember one day he sat down and he said to me in front of a couple of our other friends, he goes, "Yeah, I dated this girl because she's so much like Jillian. She's this, she's that, she's this, she's that. She has all these like driven qualities." and our friend, our mutual friend Tamika said, "I think you're just trying to date Jillian. Like, I don't understand it." And he's like, no, we're
cut
just
to the
friends.
chase.
He was like, "I'm just looking for like a woman that just has all of Jillian's qualities." And then our other mutual friend, Michaela, goes, "No, you're definitely just trying to date Jillian."
Yeah.
Lo and behold,
not?
that was a year ago. A year later, here we are, we're dating.
Well, and I
I'm
went
not married
to
anymore.
preschool with my wife.
That's funny.
Grew up same neighborhood.
And you didn't know.
I
Who
think
would've
she
known?
always was coming after me, man. But
No, she
So,
was.
That's funny. I say that same thing. I try to say that story to make me sound
Feel better?
Right? Yeah.
But I know
it's absolutely not true.
realistically,
Yeah, me too.
absolutely not, right? And yeah, I mean, anyone who's met my wife knows, she's amazing. She's just so smart. She's so calm and caring, and she's beautiful.
Yeah.
Right? So all those things, it's kind of like winning the lottery. And then she's my business partner.
Oh my gosh, I
Yeah,
love this.
right?
I love
Yeah.
the fact
It's
you
pretty
guys can
cool.
work
The
together
trifecta.
because, as Daryl said, not all partners, not all couples can work together. It's very difficult.
Terrible
is.
idea for most people.
It is a terrible idea for 99% of the planet.
Yes.
But your wife sounds very driven. She was 22 on the HOA, owned a house, was going to school, getting her master's
And that's why it
degree,
works because there's
getting
no
into-
animosity there.
Yeah.
No.
Because a lot of mates that work together don't carry the load.
Yeah.
And then animosity builds is like, I'm doing all the work, you're just sitting over there watching TV, but
Yeah.
so
But and it's LeboDesign,
like you push
so
each other.
she's a Lebo too.
That's right.
So
Yeah, she's a
I
Lebo.
get it. It's her company too.
I contend that she only married me to get her name on the door.
really.
That's what I contend. Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
that's a good one.
Actually, that's what. So it's kind of funny. When the company started, I have to tell you, I proposed to her about 2 hours prior. So
I think I remember seeing the
2
proposal.
hours prior to coming up with the business with the company
telling
name?
her
Or?
that I was leaving the firm that I was currently working for.
Oh.
And then you were going to do your own.
And so I proposed to her, and she accepted the proposal. I'm like, oh, this is so great. Like, I'm so, I feel so wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you agreed to spend the rest of your life with me about that.
Now we're about to take a turn.
About that. Well, not yet, but it's just that, she's like, she didn't know what she was agreeing to, but literally 2 hours later, I'm like, I'm going to quit my job when we got back. We were out of the country. When we get back to the States, I'm going to put in my notice with this firm that I've been working for, a great firm. And I want to go out and start my own firm. And so she's like, you tell me this now?
Yeah, she's like, you couldn't do
After
that
I've already
2.5
said
hours
yes.
ago. Now, how long have you guys been married?
We've been married 4 years.
So tell me something special that you're going to do for your wife for Valentine's Day. We're almost at Love Day. This is going to air. And don't worry, she won't see this. So give us something special you're going to do for your wife. I love hearing this.
I'm going to plan a trip for us to get away. That's
Perfect.
That's really the
If
thing
my
that makes me
boyfriend's
happy.
listening, call Jared.
I'm going to be in
You know
Quebec.
who-
That's what she did. Nothing. I think there's nothing better than, especially because I feel like women do a majority of the planning.
They
in the
do.
relationship.
Yep.
Right.
The date planning, the vacation
yeah,
planning.
Everything.
They
business
run
planning.
everything, and they're great at it. Right. Women
Yeah.
are just wonderful at this. They have a great ability for this, but it's also exhausting.
Yeah.
I think women just take it on without realizing.
I planned
Yeah.
every vacation in my marriage of 17 years.
I never see anybody
Every
plan like this
vacation,
one.
Yeah.
I mean,
Do
spreadsheets,
it all.
making sure. I mean, surprise. My husband would go. I would literally tell him we're leaving, and he'd be like, "Where are we going again?" Like
Yeah.
he wouldn't even know. Like, are we leaving the country? Are we staying in? Like he'd be like, "Do I pack warm clothes, cold clothes?" Like I planned every vacation, and we went lavishly all over the world
yeah.
for very many years. And he never had to worry about a thing. So you're right. Women do most of the
women do.
planning.
Yeah,
So I
and
love
so-
the fact that you're going to do that for her.
That's the
great.
best thing you can do. Just like
Take control of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
plan
take
for
control,
her.
plan something special. The whole thing, figure out where you're going, how you're getting there, where are you
Love
staying.
this.
A couple great places for
Are you
dinner,
going to surprise
like a
her?
cool event.
Or are you going to give her some notice?
I mean, she'll probably get a little bit
I think a
of
little
once I figured
notice.
it
Don't
out.
surprise her
Yeah.
because
I love
usually
surprises.
doesn't end up
Just
very
give her
well.
like a day.
Yeah.
Because women always want to make sure, right?
They have enough
bringing
clothes.
the right things.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Give her a little notice.
just when we're done with the podcast, just text my boyfriend, give him the itinerary. He can just copy and paste it, and we're good to go. All right,
He's
so
probably already got that going for you. You don't even
Yeah.
hopefully I told him I'm
John's
like,
got it
you know,
going. He
yeah, he's
knows
got to make
what's
it
up.
happen. So, all right, well, this was so great. Is there any last little tidbit that you want to leave our viewers with, or our listeners with, before we close this off? Besides that, LeboDesign is like the hottest
Oh,
architect
yeah.
firm
Number
in
one
Vegas and
architecture firm in
Southwest.
Las Vegas. Other than that,
You guys are being very kind. No, I mean, I think just continue to, enjoy our city,
And invest in Vegas.
invest in Vegas, and
come to Las Vegas. We want you here.
enjoy your time here and enjoy the people you spend it with.
Yeah.
I love that.
absolutely. That's great.
I love that. Well, you guys, again, I'm Jillian Batchelor,
I'm Daryl Hanna.
and we are Vegas Real Talk, and we really enjoyed that you guys were with us today, and hopefully you enjoyed this podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Check it out.